Welterweight title challenger Leon Edwards looks to avenge his defeat this Saturday at UFC 278, hosted in Salt Lake City, Utah. As for his counterpart, Kamaru Usman looks to remain undefeated not only against Leon Edwards, but in his UFC career, and looks to make it 20 straight wins in his pro career. Lots to happen. Welcome back to Hey Jive Picks. I'm your host, founder, editor, and producer, Hayden Iverson. We're going to be going over the UFC 278 card in this video, full card breakdown. We will get right into it. I have a few plays out there right now, and I will be looking to add to them throughout the rest of the week. So stay tuned. Follow me on TikTok at HeyJivePicks. All of my picks will be going up there and all of my bets. So stay tuned for those and other content. Usually posting daily, if not every other day. Let's get straight into it. The main event, Kamaru Usman, 2021 Fighter of the Year, number one pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC, looking for 20 straight wins, sitting at a minus 400 price tag right now. Very, very hefty favorite. In the first fight against Leon Edwards, his counterpart, he was a minus 300, so a bit of an increase there. He has 9 KOs on his record, 1 sub, and he's been subbed once. And that is his only loss. And that was quite a long time ago. Pound for pound, number one. Nigerian Nightmare, probably one of the most dominant champions we've seen in the history of the UFC, and especially recently. As for Leon Edwards, 30 years old, he's on a 9-fight win streak. He's currently ranked number 3 in the UFC welterweight rankings. He's had a bit of bad luck in his career. He's had multiple fights canceled due to COVID. Also, just bad luck. His last fight against Nate Diaz over a year ago, back in June of 2021, put on a great performance. Very good kickboxer is Leon Edwards. Fight before that was another string of bad luck, a no contest with Bilal Muhammad due to a nasty, nasty eye poke. In the first fight with Kamaru Usman, he claims he was not a wrestler, not able to wrestle, didn't know how to wrestle. Claims that he has improved that and he is ready to go this time. As for Kamaru Usman, he claims he was just a wrestler back then. As we know now, he is much better on the feet, especially seen in his knockout with George Masvidal. That was one of the highlights of the year, and just showed you that his striking is very, very crisp. Working with Trevor Whitman now, has been for a little bit now, but very, very improved on the feet, very legit on the feet. Claims he wants to fight or box Canelo Alvarez. We'll see how that goes. But for Edwards, 6 KOs and 3 subs on his record. Never been finished. Both guys very durable. Usman 35 years old, so maybe, peeking out here. Could be peeking out. Not sure yet. I wouldn't say that until he loses. But very, very dominant champion. Very hard to pick against considering what he's done in the UFC. But Leon Edwards is no scrub. I do feel like this plus 310 price tag is pretty juicy, considering he is a very, very, very good fighter. Obviously, he wouldn't be fighting for the title if he wasn't. But if you look at the odds, in Kamaru Usman's past, his opponents, Masvidal, he was a minus 350 favorite against Masvidal, minus 400 here. I feel like Edwards has a much better chance of winning this fight. Honestly, I could see Edwards beating Colby Covington, possibly. It really just comes down to if Kamaru Usman's going to push the wrestling. If this is a stand-up battle, I do see it going the distance. I see it going the distance either way, really. And that price tag is sitting at minus 150 for the fight to go the distance. I certainly like that. I maybe putting a little bit on that. I don't have any action in the main event as of right now, but that fight to go to the distance at minus 150 does look pretty good. And I could see a greasy decision here going either way, really. If it stays on the feet, that's a little bit harder to judge. Both guys have good power. Both guys have pretty good defense. So this one could be tough. The only thing that I think could possibly get him in Edwards is that he has shown, not just in the Diaz fight, that in the 5th round that he can get a little complacent, can get touched up in the 5th round or later rounds, so that maybe could get Usman in the round 5. Very possible. A lot of possibilities. I feel like this price tag is just a little bit too wide. I guess I do have Usman in a parlay with Tyson, Pedro, and Romanov that I put in quite a while ago. That was back when Usman was minus 360, so he's gone up to minus 400 now. So straight up, I wouldn't touch it. But you can always throw it in a parlay and hedge out at the end with such a big favorite like that. Moving on, the co-main event, Paulo Costa and Luke Rockhold. Costa, 31 years old, currently on a 2-fight losing streak. He's missed weight his last fight, and I would be very, very interested to see how his weight's looking right now. Because if you watch any of the videos of him, in training and stuff, he looks like a big boy. I mean, he's a very, very, very big boy. Before those two losses to Marvin Vettori and Israel Adesanya, he was 13-0, taking out Yoel Romero and Uriah Hall. And shout out to Uriah Hall just announcing his retirement. He wants to stand and trade, really. He's going to stalk you. He's going to stalk and walk you, hands up pretty high. He's going to come towards you, always going to keep walking towards you. And he just wants you to throw. He wants you to throw. He thinks he's got the bigger, heavier hands, and thinks he's got better defense. So he wants to get in your face and make it really a boxing match. As for Luke Rockhold, 37 years old, former Strikeforce champion. His last fight was 3 years ago at light heavyweight against Jan Blachowicz, in which he got knocked out in the 2nd round. He hasn't won a fight in nearly 5 years. He's been inactive, so that is partly to blame. You got to wonder if his chin is compromised. He's been knocked out 5 times. He's got 6 knockouts on his record, though, and 8 submission wins, never been subbed. Just a lot of question marks around Luke Rockhold with how long he's been out. At plus 290 right now for him. Looks kind of juicy, not going to lie, just considering the career that he has had. But for Paulo Costa, he's kind of in his prime right now, or should be in his prime. At 31 years old, he's got 11 KOs on his record. He's been knocked out once by Izzy, and then 1 sub on his record as well. So 12 of his 13 wins coming via finish. So what does that tell me? It tells me I got to look at the over-under and for the fight to not go the distance. And the price for that right now for the over-unders is at 1.5. So probably not playable, to be honest. I don't really like betting over-under 1.5s, just because you never know if guys are going to come out slow or if they're just going to come out like a bat out of hell. But that's really why I lean more towards if the fight's going to go the distance, because, as time moves on, they're eventually going to have to fight, unless you're named Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza, because on that night, neither of them wanted to fight. But we're gonna take Paulo Costa for the sake of the channel, and I guess I forgot to say this in the main event. We're gonna go with Usman for the sake of the channel as well. Both favorites in the main event and the co-main event. Moving on though, we got 35-year-old Jose Aldo, the absolute legend. He's currently on a 3-fight win streak. He's 3-2 at bantamweight since he moved down. He was on that big 18-fight win streak before he eventually lost to Conor McGregor. Really legendary stuff. 17 KOs. Has been knocked out 4 times. Gotta look at that for sure. 1 submission win and 1 submission loss. So 3-2 at bantamweight. He's lost to Marlon Moraes, Petr Yan, and then wins over Chito Vera, Pedro Munoz, and Rob Font. So, I mean, he's fighting the best of the best. You got to look at that for sure. So, 35 years old, past his prime, but still very, very, very good fighter. Very good fighter. He looks very, very good. I just keep saying very, but he's in really good shape. But as for Dvalishvili, the machine, just an absolutely relentless fighter. He's going to be in your face. He's going to be, glued to you. He wants to be glued to you. Very good wrestler. He's on a 7-fight win streak right now over Marlon Moraes. That was a crazy fight in his last one. Marlon Moraes, Cody Stamann, John Dodson, Gustavo Lopez, Casey Kenny, Brad Katona, and Terrion Ware. And then 2 losses in his first 2 fights, Ricky Simone and Frankie Saenz. So, on the rise is Merab Dvalishvili. Very, very wild. I mean, he's a wild fighter, wild guy. And that is not really the fight that Jose Aldo wants to fight, which leads me to believe that Dvalishvili gets the win here. I made a 2-unit bet on him when he was at -105. He's sitting at -140 right now as the favorite. Jose Aldo +120. If you get into a kickboxing match with Jose Aldo, it's probably not going to go well for you. And will Merab Dvalishvili do that? I don't think so. I think he's going to make it a wild fight. He's going to force scramble. He's going to be shooting. He's going to throw wild stuff at you. And Jose Aldo, not necessarily too fond of that kind of fight. Rob Font is going to make it a kickboxing, mainly boxing match. Pedro Munoz, kickboxing, boxing match. Marlon Vera, kickboxing, boxing match. Those are his last 3 wins. Petr Yan, kickboxing, boxing match. He got finished in that one. And then Marlon Moraes, kickboxing, boxing match. He hasn't really fought this kind of fighter in Merab Dvalishvili. That's why I'm leaning towards him. I will be picking Merab for the sake of the channel as well. I know a lot of people are going to want to bet Aldo as a underdog, but I just don't think this is a good matchup for him. If you were to give him, guys like, if it was Aldo versus Petr Yan and Aldo was a dog, I would take Aldo. Am I saying Merab is better than Petr Yan? Not necessarily, but it's just not a good matchup for Aldo. He has pretty good takedown defense and stuff. It's just not going to be a fun fight for him. And that's why I think Merab's going to get the win. We will move on, though. 36-year-old Marcin Tabura. Currently coming off a loss to Alexander Volkov. He was scheduled to fight Jairzinho Rozenstruik twice, and both fights were canceled. Before that, he was on a five-fight win streak over Walt Harris, Greg Hardy, Ben Rothwell, Maxime Grishin, and Sergey Spivak. I would say 4 of those fighters are not really that great of caliber. Sergey Spivak's solid, but that was in 2020, 2 years ago. He's made a lot of improvements. Maxine Grishin is now a light heavyweight. Ben Rothwell, no longer with promotion. Greg Hardy, trash, no longer with promotion. And Walt Harris, he's Walt Harris, little old there, little old. And, he hasn't been back since he lost to Martian Tabura. So, not exactly the best of the best in the heavyweight. Not even like top 10, top 15. He fought Volkov and lost convincingly. But he's got solid stand-up, pretty decent. He will try to mix in the wrestling, but I don't think that's a great idea here with his opponent, Alexander Romanov, 31 years old, currently undefeated. Very, very dominant wrestler. He has finished all of his fights except his win over Juan Espino due to a technical decision in which he got kicked or kneed in the nuts. And the fight was called off early, and it looked like Romanov was kind of winding. He was winding down, and it looked like Espino was gonna take over and get the win in the third round. But he gets the knee in the nuts, and you could say he milked it or not, but they called the fight and gave Romanov the win via split decision. As I said, very dominant wrestler. Looks to take it to the ground. Looks to land ground and pound. He's got really solid submissions as well. In his last fight against Chase Sherman, put out a very slick submission. I'm not saying Chase Sherman is anything special, but 6 KO wins for Romanov and 9 submission wins. Tabura, 9 KO wins, 6 submission wins, and he's been knocked out 4 times. I'm high on Romanov as a whole, and I also am high on him in this fight. I have him inside the distance at minus 120 for a unit and a half, and then, as I said earlier, I have him paired up with Usman and Tyson Pedro in a 3-leg parlay for 3 units. That is my biggest play on the card right now. So give me Alexander Romanov, and I think it should be in dominant fashion. Moving on. Tyson Pedro and Harold Hunsucker. Hairy boy. Tyson Pedro with the return in his last fight against an absolute layup in Ike Villanueva. Ike, sorry, buddy, but KO by leg kicks. Not a good look in the first round. Not a good look. But he came back. Tyson Pedro came back since his last fight in 2018. Fought this April and got that win over Ike. Was a very sought-after prospect and contender until he had those injuries that kept him out for a while. All of his wins come in the first round. He's very great on the feet and the ground. Really a well-rounded fighter. 3 KO wins, 5 subs. He's been knocked out once and subbed once. And then for Harry Hunsucker, he's moving down from heavyweight. So this fight is scheduled to fight at light heavyweight 205. He last weighed in December at 238.5. So going to be interested to see how he looks at 205. 2-3 in his last 5. His 3 UFC fights, if you count the Contender Series, have all ended in him getting knocked out. So that is not a good look. 3 KO wins for him, though. He's been knocked out 5 times and 4 submission wins. I see this one going very lopsided. Tyson Pedro sitting at minus 800. Harry Hunsucker at plus 550. Tyson Pedro, as I said, I have him linked up with Usman and Romanov in the 3-legger. All these lines on Tyson Pedro are pretty juiced, pretty unplayable. Pedro by KO is at minus 218 right now. Him at submission at plus 325 does not look that bad, though, to be honest, considering he does have 5 submission wins. Could see a club and sub. Inside the distance is minus 550. So that's not really playable either. Tyson Pedro in round 1 is minus 200. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear what people think is going to happen here. Give me Tyson Pedro. Maybe I would look to sprinkle a little bit on that sub because that's decent value there. I think that's pretty decent value. Moving on, though. We got Leonardo Santos and Jared Gordon in a lightweight bout. Santos, 42 years old, still kicking, 7-2-1 in the UFC, coming off of a loss to Clay Guida via rear naked choke, and then his fight before that, lost to Grant Dawson. He was the tough title winner in 2013, and that first round of the Clay Guida fight was very wild. And I could see this one starting out that way as well. Santos, 3 KOs, 9 subs. He's been KO'd twice and subbed once. Sitting at plus 240 right now, so pretty hefty dog. Jared Gordon, 33 years old, 7-4 in the UFC. He's going to be at a 6-inch reach disadvantage in this one. He can get controlled on the ground. He did lose his last fight against Grant Dawson. Got controlled for a lot of that one and ultimately lost via submission in the 3rd round. But Grant Dawson, very solid fighter. Looks very good. Could be a real problem in the lightweight division. So you can't look into that one too much. Jared Gordon's got 6 KO wins and 2 submission wins. 4 KO losses and 1 sub. He's sitting at minus 300 right now. I don't know. That's a bit of a hefty price tag for Jared Gordon. I mean, he's solid, but I would not feel too confident throwing down minus 300 on him. I am going to pick him for the sake of the channel. But this one's interesting, you know. I would maybe... Honestly, Santos by submission at plus 900 doesn't look that bad. Considering Gordon just got submitted, Santos has 9 submission wins on his record. Plus 900, that doesn't look too bad. I might sprinkle just a tad on that because I think this line is off. I think this is more of a closer fight than the line intends. And with how wild that first round was with Clay Guida, I could see him maybe snatching something up quickly. So I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket. But I'll take Jared Gordon for the sake of the channel. And we're going to keep this train moving. Wu Yanan and Lucy Pudilova. This one, I believe, got moved to the main card, which is very interesting. Not really sure why. Because both of these fighters are not very good. For Lucy Pudilova, 28 years old. She was 2-5 in the UFC in her previous stint. She's been re-signed since. In her time away from the UFC, though, she was 5-1 with Octagon, the Octagon promotion. And, she's pretty lengthy. She loves to pump her jab. She really fights behind her jab. She's going to lead with it. She pumps it all the time, whether she's in range or not. She's going to pump it out there. She will mix in her wrestling as well, which I think could suit her well in this fight. You know, if she stays beyond the jab, looks for openings, and then takes it to the ground. She's sitting at minus 120 right now, so it's, pretty much a pick 'em. She's got 2 KO wins and 2 submission wins on her record. Her record is 13-7. As for Wu Yanan, 26 years old. So both fighters in their mid to late 20s. 1-4 in the UFC. Not a good look there. Not against the best competition either. I would say her best fight in the UFC was her last one against Mayra Bueno Silva, in which she did not look bad. She keeps improving in her fights in the UFC. 7 KO wins, 1 KO loss, and 4 submission wins. So, this one is just as greasy as it gets for women's MMA. I think everyone knows that women's MMA is greasy as it comes, especially if it goes to decision. Most likely, you kind of got to go like dog or pass in these situations. If you're gonna bet on it, last week you had Angela Hill as a dog win. That one hurt. You had Nina Nunes as a dog win. There was another one. I forget what it was, but 2 of the dogs that I can remember as women came through, and both of them were not super close. But for the sake of the channel, I will take Pudilova. I think she just has a little better path to victory. Stay beyond the jab. Look for takedowns. Maintain top control. Do that. And you should win. But will it be getting any of my money? Probably not. So give me Pudilova for the sake of the channel. We will keep moving. And this one is an interesting one because you have Sean Woodson, the Slender Man, as I like to call him. Sean Woodson, the Slender Man, 4-1 in the UFC. He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage in this one. I certainly do not know how he makes 145 standing at 6'2". But obviously that's going to come with him being very skinny. And his legs, he looks like he's on stilts, really. Not too much to him. Kind of skin and bones. But he does have some good power. I will give him that. He uses his length very well as well. There's some guys that are just tall and lengthy and don't know how to use it. Sean Woodson knows how to use it, and he uses it very well. He's very fast as well. For a featherweight that's 6'2", he's fast. He's very fast with his feet and his hands. He's very creative with it as well. Kind of keeps his hands at his hips and shoots from the hip a lot. Very accurate as well. But as I said, he's got chicken legs. He's 30 years old, sitting at -340. And his opponent in this one, Luis Saldana, loves to kick the legs. In his last fight, he landed 29 leg kicks against Bruno Souza. So that is concerning for Sean Woodson. He's going to have to defend those because there's not a lot to his legs. And I'd hate to see another leg break. So keep an eye on that. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he knows. He's a UFC fighter. He's professional. He knows what's going to happen. Luis Saldana, he's pretty solid all around. He's not great at anything in particular, but he's just all around pretty solid fighter. 3-1 in the UFC. His wins coming Vince Murdoch, Jordan Griffin, lost to Austin Lingo, and then win over Bruno Souza in his last one at UFC Columbus, which I was at. But I do see Sean Woodson winning this one if he doesn't get his leg broken. If he gets his leg broken, obviously he lost. But Woodson, keep those legs safe, and you'll win this one for sure. So give me Sean Woodson. I do see some value in him by KO. It's at plus 200 right now. Saldana has 7 KO wins on his record and 1 KO loss. Woodson has 3 KO wins. It could be greasy. He could just look to stay at range and pick him apart, not necessarily look for a power shot. I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket, though. I'll think about it, and we'll get back to that. Look at the TikTok if you're interested in seeing if I went with that. Moving on, Miranda Maverick versus Shanna Young. Miranda Maverick, 25 years old, very young, very, very young, training out of Elevation. 3-2 in the UFC. Her 2 losses coming to Macy Barber and Erin Blanchfield. Nothing to hang your head about. Both fighters are very good. Her wins coming over Liana Jojua, I think that's how you say it, Jillian Robertson, and Sabina Mazo in her last one. Pretty solid all around. She kind of looks to take the fight to the ground, especially obviously in her last one. She won via sub in round 2. She's been working on her grappling a lot. She is listed at 5'3". Shanna Young is 5'7", so a little bit of a disadvantage there. Shanna Young, pretty ripped fighter, 1-3 in the UFC, training at Syndicate MMA. Her 1-3 if you count the contender series, where she lost to Sarah Alpar, and then a loss to Macy Chason, Stephanie Egger, and then her last win was in her last fight against Gina Mazzani, who is no longer with the promotion. So not the best competition in her wins. Her first 2 fights were at bantamweight. This fight is scheduled to be at flyweight. So I'd be interested to see. She looked pretty good in her last fight, but to see her compared to Miranda Maverick, look at the face-offs at weigh-ins and stuff like that, see how they size up. That's really the reason why I changed my pick last week to Martin Budaj over Lucas Dresky, because Budaj just looked so much bigger and like he would wear on him a lot more. Maverick, very heavy favorite in this one, -550. Shanna Young, +400. Maverick's got 7 submission wins and 1 KO win. Never been finished. And Shanna Young, 2 KO wins, 3 submission wins. Been knocked out once and lost by submission twice. I'm going to go with Miranda Maverick in this one. I will look at the submission line, which is +160. I don't really see too much value in that one, considering her by points is +125. So both are very likely. And I just, at that price tag, I don't think there's enough value in there. So I'm going to take Miranda Maverick for the sake of the channel. I probably won't be touching that one, but I will be looking into it a little bit more, as we go throughout the week with weigh-ins, press conference, stuff like that. Moving on. Ange Losa and AJ Fletcher. AJ Fletcher, 25 years old. Flying knee KO on his Dana White Contender Series fight. Very beautiful knee. His last fight was his debut against Matthew Semmelsberger. No slouch there. Won the first round and then lost the next 2. So, he kind of, not necessarily gassed out. I think he took it on short notice, but was game first round. And then Matthew Semmelsberger kind of figured that he needs to take him down and just lay on him, because he's just got to win the fight, because he had already lost the first round. Fletcher is a wild fighter, very, very wild fighter. He's going to be at a 7-inch reach disadvantage right now. He's listed at 5'10". I don't buy that one bit. Ange Losa is also listed at 5'10", and I could see that a lot more. But yeah, 7-inch reach advantage for Ange Losa. He lost his debut to Munir Lozes, who is no slouch. And he had a loss on the Contender Series to Jack Della Maddalena, who is no slouch either. So he's fought really good competition. Training out at Sanford. Gilbert Burns was in his corner in his debut. So, he's getting some good training, getting some good coaching. He also likes to pump the jab, sit behind it, and work off of that. Pretty crisp striker, really technical. Will sit in the pocket, and he did attempt a takedown in his debut, didn't get it. So I'd be interested to see if that's a path that he wanted to go down but couldn't get it. He's got 5 KO wins, 1 submission win. Never been finished. 28 years old. Sitting at plus 135 right now. So a slight dog there. Fletcher, minus 160. He's got 4 KO wins and 4 submission wins. I think the value here is on Angelosa. I mean, he's going to have a reach advantage. The only way I see this fight going for AJ Fletcher is if he gets a finish. Either he gets a finish or he takes him down and holds him down. But if this is just a regular striking battle, Angelosa's got really good output. You know, in his last fight with Munir Lazes, very close rounds. Both guys put out a lot of volume and a good amount of power. So I see Losa winning this one by decision. I have half a unit on it at plus 285. So just a little bit of a sprinkle there. I'm going to go with Angelosa as well for the sake of the channel. So give me the dog in Angelosa. And I just need to see more from AJ Fletcher. I mean, I think he's undersized for the weight division. And he just fights wild. You know, as a dog, I would love to bet him as a dog with his fight style. But for this fight, as a favorite, I'm gonna go with Angelosa. Moving on, 28-year-old Amir AlBazi, 2-0 in the UFC and 2-0 in Bellator. So 4-0 in 2 of the biggest promotions in MMA. Last fight was against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, win there, and then a win over Malcolm Gordon in his debut. This guy really, really loves to pressure his opponents, stay in the face, make them stay in the fight, make them not have any time off. Really solid stand-up, but he looks to shoot takedowns, get the fight to the ground. He's got 8 submission wins and 4 KO wins. He's never been finished. Sitting at a hefty favorite at minus 470. Francisco Figueiredo sitting at plus 360. His opponent, 32 years old, 2-1 in the UFC, coming off a knee bar win in his last fight, which was absolute chaos. You know, Daniel Da Silva comes out with the kick, and then they kind of get in this little scramble, and Figueiredo finds a knee bar. And then in his second fight in the UFC, a loss to Malcolm Gordon, and then in his debut, a win over Jerome Rivera. He's got 3 KO wins, 1 KO loss, 8 submission wins, and 1 submission loss. I'm going to go with Amir AlBazi in this one as well. Not a lot to say about this one. I could see it going the distance. That price tag is minus 135 right now, so damn near a toss-up if it goes the distance. I'll keep that one in the back pocket as well, but give me Amir AlBazi for the sake of the channel. Moving on, second to last fight, Arichi Long and Jay Perrin. I think this has a very good chance to be the fight of the night with the way Arichi Long fights. Coming off a KO win against Cameron Ells. He's 1-2 in the UFC, 29 years old. So he got his first win in the UFC. But his 2 losses are to Cody Durden, not too bad. Jeff Molina, not bad at all either. So 2 main respectable losses. This guy, though, I mean, he just really wants to swing and bang. He wants to stay in your face. He's a walk and stalk guy as well. Wants to stay in your face, force you to fight him, force you to get into like a bar fight. Really doesn't move his head too far off the center line. Is very hittable. Not the best with his defense, but he's very willing to stand in there and trade. As for Jay Perrin, 29 years old. I lost his debut in the UFC to Mario Batista. Can't be too mad about that one. Batista looks like a very, very good prospect. Also lost his contender series fight to Dwight Joseph. He is 0-2 in Bellator as well. Not the best look there. So He's 0-2 or 0-4 in two of the biggest promotions in pro MMA. He also likes to pump the jab, more so just heavy on his lead leg. Wants to get in your face a little bit, get into distance, into range. He's got 2 KO wins, 4 submission wins, and 1 submission loss. Arichi Long, 6 KO wins, 2 submission wins, and 3 submission losses. So, I really want to back Arichi Long, but as a favorite at minus 140, I don't know if I'll get there. Maybe if the line comes down a little bit, I'd back him. Arichi Long by KO right now is at plus 330. I'm definitely going to keep that in the back pocket. With the way he fights, man, it should be a bloodbath, and I'm here for it, man. I think it's going to be a really good fight. I'm excited to watch this one. I'm going to take Arichi Long for the sake of the channel, and I will be keeping my eye on the lines throughout the rest of the week and possibly throwing a little bit of money on him. And moving on to the last fight. Daniel Da Silva and Victor Altamirano, a flyweight bout, 26 years old for Da Silva, 0-2 in the UFC. This guy loves his kicks. This guy loves to make the fight wild. As I mentioned earlier, just coming off a loss to Francisco Figueiredo via knee bar. And then in his debut, lost to Jeff Molina via KO. So he's been finished twice in the UFC, been finished 3 times in his pro career. He's got 5 KO wins, 6 submission wins. Very, very aggressive. He's never even been in a third round. He comes out hot and kind of gasses out as the fight goes on. Kind of gasses out. As for Altamirano, 31 years old, coming off of back-to-back split decisions. One was a win and one was a loss. His win was on the Contender Series, and his loss was in his debut to Carlos Hernandez. Both very close fights. He can get taken down and controlled. That was kind of shown in his Contender Series fight. Candelario was able to take him down, but not necessarily do a ton of damage. Altamirano was pretty active off his back with elbows, punches up, throwing up submissions, just trying to make it not easy for Candelario. I think that's ultimately what got him the win there in that one. He does throw a ton of volume. I would be interested to see, Victor Altamirano is kind of a decision fighter, and Daniel Da Silva is the exact opposite. So I'm interested to see how this one plays out. Is Altamirano going to stretch at the distance, or is Da Silva going to force the issue early and often and get a win for himself early, or gas himself out and get finished? Altamirano, 1 KO win and 4 submission wins. There is no lines out right now for Da Silva by KO or sub, any props like that. They do have the over-under set at 2.5. But the prices are over plus 140 and under minus 185. Fight to go the distance, yes, at plus 140 and no at minus 185. So same prices there. Interesting. I will be keeping my eye on Daniel Da Silva in rounds 1 or 2. Also, if you look to live bet, you're probably going to get a better price on Altamirano after round 1 because Daniel Da Silva is going to come out hot. He's going to throw a lot of volume in the first round. Altamirano will most likely lose the first round. So that is a spot that I will be keeping my eye on live as well. But I will be taking Daniel Da Silva for the sake of the channel. Give me the dog in that one. So if we go from the top down, we got Kamaru Usman, Paulo Costa, Merab Dvalishvili, Alexander Romanov, Tyson Pedro, Jared Gordon, Pudilova girl, forgot her first name already. Sean Woodson, Miranda Maverick, Angelosa, Amir AlBazi, Arichi Long, and Daniel De Silva. If we look at our bets right now, we have 3 straight plays. Davalashvili for 2 units at -105. Alexander Romanov inside the distance, 4 unit and a half at -120. And Angelosa by decision for half a unit at +285. If you look at the only parlay we have right now for fighters, we have Tyson, Pedro, Kamaru, Usman, and Alexander Romanov parlayed together. This was made a while ago. -121 for 3 units. And then I have a play for Prize Picks. It's not sponsored by Prize Picks, but I did see a play that I really liked. It's Arichi Long over 81.5 fantasy points. If this fight goes the distance, I see him getting close to, if not 81 significant strikes. And then this also protects me if, he gets a knockout in rounds 1 or 2 with not having the volume there. So it covers me on that one. And then pair that with Merab Davalashvili over 53.5 significant strikes. I think Merab's going to push a lot of volume in his striking. I mean, he landed like 200-some strikes in his last fight against Marlon Moraes. Only 60 or 70 of them counted as significant, but the fight also ended in round 2. So I like that over 53.5 significant strikes for Davalashvili. Even if it is a kickboxing match, like, he's going to throw volume. He's the machine. He's going to do that. So I put a unit and a half on those, parlayed together for +200. It's going to pay you 2 times your money back. So that is my plays for this weekend at the moment. Stay tuned on the TikTok for more plays as the week goes on. Very interested to see how these fights play out. Kind of weak as far as a name perspective goes, but I do see a lot of very exciting fights to happen. De Silva, Altamirano, Arichi Long, Jay Perrin, Fletcher Losa could be a good one. AlBazi, Figueiredo could be a good one. Woodson, Saldana. I think Pedro gets him out there pretty quick. Romanov, interested to see him against a lot better competition. Aldo, Davalashvili, going to be really good. Costa, Rockhold, going to be really good to see Rockhold back. And then the main event. I think this is about as greasy as it gets. I think this is going to be the toughest test for Kamaru Usman. Leon Edwards is legit. He's legit. And I can't wait to see how it plays out. So make sure to leave a like, leave a subscription. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I will be back with a recap video as well. Hey, Jai Picks here, signing off. I'll see you in the next video.